Wait, the Sixers don't want to trade Ben Simmons? What's up, fellas? My name's Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some reports that try that again. What's up, fellas? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some reports that have come out over the last couple of days about Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers. We've kind of all operated under the assumption over the last couple of days that the Sixers are going to trade this guy. They're going to shake up their roster. They have to make a move, right? Yeah, apparently, reportedly, that is not necessarily the mindset that Philly has right now. We're going to talk about those reports, whether or not I believe them, just kind of the whole Simmons situation in today's video. So let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about the report. This is from ESPN. Basically, what it boils down to is Simmons and his agency, Clutch, might have heard of them, had conversations with Philadelphia, with the front office, talking about what the future of Ben Simmons is going to be as a Philadelphia 76er. The Sixers reportedly established that they think that Simmons is a foundational part of their franchise moving forward. They don't want to move him, and no formal trade request was made from Simmons' camp. So that meeting definitely could have resulted in Simmons doesn't want to be there anymore, or Philly lets him know they're going to move him. But that's not how it went down, which gives us the indication that Philly doesn't actually want to move on from Simmons, which again is kind of the opposite of what everybody's been assuming over the last couple of days. And this brought to my attention something that I feel like we do need to talk about, and that is the value of Ben Simmons, because I think that people are really undervaluing him in some of these trades that I've seen thrown around. I'm going to do my own trade video here over the next couple of days, over the weekend, about Simmons, but let's talk about why it would or wouldn't make sense for Philly to trade this guy right now. So why would it not make sense to trade Simmons right now in this moment, this offseason? Well, to start, he is still just 24 years old. There's room to grow and develop as a player if you're Simmons. He brings incredible value on the defensive end of the floor. I thought he should have been the defensive player of the year. His ability to guard bigger wings as well as smaller guards is incredible, and it's something that he's kind of always had, but he's really leaned into it this season and accepted a different kind of role than you would have expected him to when he came into the league. When he came into the league, he had the tools to be a great defensive player, but that wasn't something he was overly concerned with, and his ability to adapt and accept that kind of role, I think is really critical and it's really important. And the last point is, obviously, Simmons' value right now as a trade asset is lower than it's ever been and probably the lowest that it ever will be. And, you know, when you're selling that low on a guy that at a certain point had the value commensurate with potentially being a James Harden trade unto himself with, the exception of adding a couple other players or picks, and now you're looking at trading him for, I don't even know what, that's obviously going to be an issue, right? If you're Daryl Morey, you're a smart general manager, you're not just going to sell off a guy that, is such low value right now, right? And so when you compare not only his performance in the postseason, but his contract, where he's now on a rookie max extension, it's a concern, right? Trading away a guy and not getting value, especially when this is kind of your big move to improve the roster, right? But then on the other hand, why would it make sense to trade Simmons right now? Well, those things are obvious, right? It's relatively clear at this point that Simmons does not fit on this roster. The Embiid thing does not work. He really hasn't shown much improvement, which is a huge counterpoint to the fact that he is just 24 years old. That age and those kinds of things, they only really matter if guys have really shown significant improvement. And the improvement that Simmons has shown is defensively and more so like accepting a role. I don't really know that there's been a ton of skill development, and you could even argue, whether it be a mental thing or whatever, he has regressed offensively from a skill set standpoint than where he was when he first came into the league. So yes, he's 24, but if a guy isn't improving, I'm not sure you could make the case that there's a ton of potential and upside there, although he isn't necessarily like technically fully in his prime yet. He's pretty close, right? And of course, the roster itself, I think, necessitates some change, whether it's Simmons or otherwise this offseason, because Joel Embiid has quickly gone from really cool up-and-coming player, now he's like an MVP caliber guy, but he's getting into his late 20s and is injury prone. And you might, you could make the case that we look back 10 years from now and say that next year, this upcoming season, was the last true window for Philly to win a title with Joel Embiid at his peak. Like, big guys, when they fall off fast, right? And so if we're seeing the 2 years that Embiid's going to be like a high-level MVP guy, you can't just sit around and waste that and wait another year or two to make a Simmons move or to improve the roster in a significant way, and then all of a sudden Embiid isn't the same guy anymore. So that would definitely be a concern for me if I was Philly, is understanding the limits of a championship window, specifically when you're dealing with big guys, even as talented as Embiid is. And I think it's pretty clear that they don't have enough spacing, they don't have enough perimeter creation, and moving Simmons is their best move to be able to remedy that problem. Would they go out and they get CJ McCollum, or they try and go get someone like Bradley Beal, whatever the case may be, where, you need a guy nowadays in the NBA. It's very hard for me to see this team being successful if they don't have a high-level perimeter creator and scorer. And no disrespect, no offense to Seth Curry. He was awesome in the playoffs. But if I'm running, Seth Curry, Joel Embiid, ball screen, dribble handoff stuff in the playoffs, that makes me nervous. I need someone else. And Tobias Harris isn't going to be that guy. Ben Simmons isn't going to be that guy. So I need somebody. And like I said, this is kind of their best move. Outside of trying to trade Tobias Harris, who I don't think has a ton of value either, this is the move. This is the one that they have to make if they really want to improve the roster. It's really the only option they have outside of trading a whole bunch of picks and young guys and stuff. But then if you're just adding to what you just had, the fit issue is still a problem, right? And it's interesting how this is developed publicly, because after game 7, multiple people were publicly out on Ben Simmons. I mean, Doc Rivers was openly questioning his ability to lead this team to a title or to be a successful playoff team with him running it in the post-game press conference. Joel Embiid seemed kind of out on him as well. And now here we are a few days later, and they're publicly saying, or at least, quote unquote publicly, they're probably just leaking this stuff to Woj. Oh, Simmons is a central part of our franchise. He's a cornerstone part. Here's how that reads to me. To me, that reads as Morey is realizing we probably got to move this guy. And it doesn't help his value to the team when Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid after the game are basically openly questioning whether he's even worth having on the roster next year. Morey's looking at that like, hey, we got to calm this down. He calls those guys in. He's like, hey, we need to bring this guy's value up, not down. So then they have this report that comes out and says, hey, Ben Simmons is a big part of our future. It's going to take a lot if we were ever going to trade him. We're not looking at trades right now. So if there is a team around the league that really likes Ben Simmons, they're not calling up and offering an awful trade package, because they through this report at least, it seems like Philly does actually value him. Whether that's true or not is kind of irrelevant. They're just trying to rehab his value a little bit publicly, because after Game 7, it seemed like if Ben Simmons never even showed back up to the team, Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid wouldn't miss him. You know what I mean? And that is not a good sign when you're trying to potentially negotiate a trade for a guy and get significant value out of him. In my opinion, I think it's only a matter of time until this guy gets moved. I can't see a scenario in which you run it back next year where you were the 1 seed in the East, you look like you're having a good season, and then everything fell apart in the postseason. I can't imagine a scenario in which that is the way that it goes down for Philly, where we're seeing more Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, weird dribble handoff, down screen, ball screen stuff. They need a perimeter creator guy. It's plain and simple. And when you look at them, especially for a general manager in Morey that has been such an offensively focused guy, there's no way he can look at this roster and think, hey, yeah, this is a team that's going to win us a title. We have enough perimeter creation. There's no way. There's no way he looks at it that way. So I think inevitably we're getting a Simmons trade, just like I think inevitably we're getting a Bradley Beal trade this offseason. And I'll be coming out with my own trade video, like I said, over the next couple of days over the weekend, where we get into some really, really crazy ones. But it's tough to, predict where he could possibly go. Maybe that Beal-Simmons trade happens between those two teams and Ben Simmons goes to Washington. I don't know. But all I know is that I'd be shocked if they don't make a move. There's just no way you can go into next year and have not made a significant adjustment to this roster. That's just not the way Daryl Morey operates. I mean, this is a guy that has been chasing an NBA title for forever, right? And he's come very close multiple times. And he's not just going to accept the norm here and just be like, yeah, we got, we lost a playoff game and series that we had no business losing. And it was in large part due to the fact that offensively, we have our guy that's the second best player on our team, supposedly, paid like it certainly, and can't play at the end of games, can't make free throws, is afraid to shoot, is afraid to drive. Simmons is a less aggressive offensive player now at 24 than he was as a quote-unquote rookie after obviously missing his first whole season due to injury. That's just not a recipe for success. I think this is now the second time, the Fultz thing the first time and Simmons the second time, where dudes just need to get out of Philly. They need to go somewhere else where the pressure is lower. They need to go somewhere else where they can breathe and just allow themselves to be the basketball player they're meant to be. And that's only going to get worse if Ben Simmons changes his shooting hand. Imagine Ben Simmons is shooting right-handed next year. Think about the pressure on him constantly in Philly. He needs to go away. He needs to go hide in Washington for a little bit and figure out who he is as a basketball player and figure out what he does best and get that confidence level back. This guy used to be devastating attacking the rim, not just in transition. And now he's afraid to go because he doesn't want to get fouled and he's going to be shooting the ball with the other hand. And maybe he should have been doing that this whole time. But regardless, this guy has got to get it together. And I don't think it's going to happen in Philly. I think Philly's going to recognize that. I think they're going to move him. They're going to get some better perimeter creation, and they're going to be a better team for it over the next 2 seasons or so. Maybe in the long term, you're sacrificing something because Simmons is just 24 years old, and there's a possibility that he turns it around. But if I'm in charge there in Philly, I would much rather change things up and try something out with a different roster rather than run it back next year with the inevitable feeling of we're probably going to disappoint in the playoffs once again. But yeah, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like rating on the video. Check out more videos from me at the box on screen as well. And yeah, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.